it's Vesper Starwolf as Morningstar, here with another video. And it's finally time for my On the Books I Read in 2023 video. I've been putting off recording this because I didn't really want to record it. But here we are, and I'm going to go over, just like last year, I'm going to go over every book that I read this past year. So there's a lot, so let's just get into it. And I was correct in that part 2 of Angels Before Man was the first book I read of 2023. And it is probably the one that has stuck with me the longest. I did a review on it, so I won't get much into it now. But also, this is the original version because the author did revise it, and it's available with a whole new cover. I'm actually planning on getting the hardcover version of this book that has the new cover on the hardback, and then it has this old cover as a dust jacket. So there is that. And the sequel comes out this year, so I'm going to be reading that one too. Oh, the next is The Hunt for Elsewhere. I also did a review on that, so I won't dive into it. I just want to say, with a couple of these books, I do not have them on me because we did a lot of rearranging and got rid of a bunch of stuff, and I think they're still packed away somewhere. So I'll just put the covers here, but that's The Hunt for Elsewhere. Oh, I completely forgot to mention off the months. But Angels Before Man, I read in January, and it took me a long time to just get through this book. It took me December and January, but I digress. The Hunt for Elsewhere was February. And the third book I read this year, which was also in February, is The Dame and the Devil by Dahlia Davies. This is just a really short, quick novella, and I really like the cover. I will definitely have to go with this artist for my own books eventually, but there's that. It's basically real simple novella. There's basically like this dance that people kind of get teleported to. It's been a while since I read it. And the goal, everyone's wearing like masks and stuff. The goal is that you don't want to be chosen by the devil to dance. When this girl right here, she's like, I want that. Based. I understand her. It's basically spicy stuff. And this also has like a sequel that I have to get sometime. In March, I kind of read the Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. I've had this book for a while. I didn't read the entire thing. I was mainly doing research for one of my own books. So I just kind of read the stories that spoke to me, because there's a lot. But I really like Edgar Allan Poe, and I love these like Barnes & Noble editions of books that are like this. They're really nice. And then in April, I read Horror Store, and I also did a review on that. So, you know, the books I did reviews on, I'll probably just link them. So in May and June, I believe this was when my hours at work were starting to pick up. So I started reading less. So it took me 2 months, May and June, to read this. But the next book is the fourth book in the Griffin Generation series, Ascension by Alexander Bizzle. I mentioned this in my last video where I read New World, I think. You know, this is a furry author, and I really adore these books. They're very interesting. You know, they're about basically what would happen if a new race, being griffins, were introduced into our world via sciencey stuff. And Ascension basically continues on with the story, and but they're, it carries off from where the last book left off, where a bunch of the super genetic Griffin soldiers were released, and basically the ramifications of that with, like, very talks of, like, war, but also, they still got to travel around and play sports. And then in July, for no reason in particular, I read How It Happened, Titanic. I've had this book for literal years, never touched it, but for some reason that I can't pinpoint, I felt the drive to read it this year in July. So I did that. I also skimmed some of this book because, so it's using actual articles and interviews from people who were survivors on the Titanic. And a lot of it felt like it was kind of repeating the same information over and over again. So, you read a few different accounts, and then a lot of people who were, like, with that person that also survived would put in their account, and it was basically the same thing. So that's why I'm kind of skimmed through, like, the repeating information. But if you're interested in the Titanic, I recommend giving it a look. And then in August, I read The Complete Guide on How to Sell Your Soul by Murta. Now hear me out. So this is a very interesting book, and this is the only ebook that I read, so I don't actually have a physical copy of it. So essentially, Murta is a demonologist like myself, and they go over basically the history and how society views on, like, selling your soul, and then what that actually means in terms of spiritual practice, kind of, and it's less selling your soul and more like binding or connecting with spirit, because you can't actually sell your soul. Human souls are a dime a dozen, and I actually really liked this book because I have very high anxieties surrounding death and the afterlife, and this also does kind of help with that. And so it's a very interesting book. I honestly even recommend it if you're not in this path and you just kind of aren't interested in, like, the different viewpoints about this kind of stuff. Also in August, I read Wild Witchcraft by Rebecca Bayer. I really enjoyed this book. This is basically a guide on how to forage or grow plants to use in different health remedies or witchcraft purposes. And it also uses witchcraft to help you with gardening. So, like, you should plant this plant on this specific moon phase. There does tend to be a lot of accuracy to that kind of stuff too. I highly recommend, even if you're not really into witchcraft, I think it would help to know the different plants that you can use and the different, like, remedies that they're used for, not necessarily for witchcraft. So then we jump into September, and I read Belial, A History by Paul Cadman, and it's another short read. So this is the first book by Paul Cadman that I have read, but there's another one on this list, and I have a third that I have yet to read. So basically, in this book, Paul Cadman kind of goes over the, as it says, it's the history of the demon Belial, who is one of my patrons. I haven't really mentioned a lot before, and I'm also writing a book about Belial, but it's a fiction one. And I really like his works because they kind of, so he takes the original Hebrew works that mentions the certain spirit, he'll translate them and stuff and, like, explain. So it's very interesting if you're curious of, like, the origins and literally the history of these certain spirits. So what I most found interesting is back in the day, like, mainly via the Dead Sea Scrolls, Belial was actually mentioned a lot more than Satan, and he was viewed as basically the big bad back in the day before, like, the rise of Christianity and stuff, which I found incredibly interesting. Like, Belial is such an interesting spirit. I am so fascinated by him. Also in September, I read Devout, an anthology of angels, and this is probably the most fun I have had reading a book in a long time. So, as it says, it's an anthology, so it's compiled of several stories and poems and such from various authors, including the author of Angels Before Man, and a few others that have works out that I haven't yet read, but I want to get to. So it's hard to talk about, like, the various different stories, but they are all angel related. A couple of them involve, like, demons and stuff. But it's just such a good, like, book. And it is very LGBT and diverse, because a lot of these authors are either POC or LGBT, so it's pretty cool. In October, to keep up with the festive season, I read Dante's Inferno, and it's an illustrated version I got at Barnes & Noble. So basically, it is just the part one of Dante's Divine Comedy, which is Inferno. Basically, you know, Dante going through hell with Virgil. Also in October, I read Samael, A History, also by Paul Codvan. And just like Belial's, it is an extensive, like, look into the history of the angel/demon Samael. And it's a lot longer than Belial's. There is so much about Samael, and he is absolutely a wild one. I highly recommend this. I adore Samael. He's so cool. November was a bit different because, I don't know, because as I mentioned before, I'm a writer. So November, I mainly focus on writing my own books because it's National Novel Writing Month. But I did read the Devildom fanzine. So this is basically just a fanzine that fans of Obey Me have put together. You know, I absolutely love Obey Me. I mean, literally, I keep forgetting, but Morningstar is literally based off of Lucifer from Obey Me, so I read that. And also, I read the editing copy of my own book, Whispers in the Forest. So, I'll just give the rundown about this. I found out that Barnes & Noble has a printing press where you can print your own personal copies of books. So, that means you don't actually have to publish them and sell them. You can just get one or however many you want just for you. And so my editors told me they wanted me to read through the book one last time before we go on to the line edit. Because right now it was going through a developmental edit, which is more intensive, and then line edit just fixes up things like misspelled words and where different sentences should go. So I was so sick and tired of reading the story on the computer. So I decided to get it printed, and I just threw this cover together on Canva. I actually drew this right here. So yeah, I decided to go with Barnes & Noble Press, and I really quickly had to figure out very simple formatting. It's not the best, and it's very thick. I don't think the final version is going to be this thick, and also this is not the final cover. I'm going to commission a cover artist. But yeah, so keep an eye out. Hopefully this book will be available this year. the final version anyway. And then we finally get to December, and that's when I read A Furry Faux Pas by Jessica Carter. I did a review on this one too, so I won't dive into it too much. And then also in December, I read Ship It by Brita London. I actually really enjoyed this book. This is another one of the books that I got ages ago, just now read. I was worried because it's very Tumblr era, and I was worried that I was gonna read it now and be like, oh. It didn't give me that vibe, but it was almost nostalgic for those days. Basically, it's about this girl who's into a show that is very supernatural coded. It's called Demon Heart, and like the guy in that show, Smokey, he's very Dean. So I'm just like, I know what you are. So she ships Smokey with the main character of the show, Heart. They are two dudes. She goes to a convention where the cast are having a panel because, you know, they're trying to get a second season. It's a split POV between the main girl, whose name I'm forgetting, and then the guy who plays Smokey. And basically, she gets up and asks a question related to her ship, which is the Smokey Heart, because Heart is the demon guy's name, ship. And the guy who plays Smokey is a new actor and doesn't understand like fandom culture or anything yet. And so he kind of makes fun of her for the question, and it's this whole publicity nightmare. So like the producer of the show kind of rigs a contest where the girl wins and she follows them on tour so they can try to settle the incident that it was, and then while she's on tour, she's trying to get her ship to be canon. It's actually like really fun. If you are into the whole fandom culture and stuff, you know, just like A Furry Faux Pas, I think you would enjoy this book. Like, these two were very like similar. I was unsure about reading them both at the same time, like one right after the other, since they both take place at conventions. But I enjoyed A Furry Faux Pas so much that I wanted to kind of still check out a convention contemporary type story. And so the rest of these still in December. I thought Ship It would be the last book I read of this year, but it wasn't, because my brother's girlfriend for Christmas got me a couple books that were just very quick reads, so I just kind of flew through those. So she got me 97 Ways to Make a Cat Like You by Carol Kaufman. So it's just a small little book that has basically like this. I sat down on Christmas while we weren't doing anything and literally just read the whole thing. She also got me Really Important Things My Cat Taught Me by Cynthia L. Copeland. You know, it's another like short one. So this one is basically like a really quick, easy guide if you're new to owning cats or if you need some extra help on different things that like cats like, their different behaviors, and in kind of a fun and quirky way. This one is more of like inspirational quotes, like, you know, like this one, learn to make sense of the darkness, and just different stuff that's kind of cat related. They're very cute. And then the final thing I read in 2023 is the Obey Me manga, the first one. I actually pre-ordered this in like May, and it finally came to me in December. So it's just a manga. It covers like the first few chapters of the game Obey Me, and as you can see, Lucifer is on the cover, and you know, can you see the resemblance? So there's that. I absolutely love Obey Me still, even though I don't play the game as much, just because it can get a little tiring, but it's a very cute manga. The main character, since they do not have an official design, and that's like done on purpose because the creators want the player to put themselves in that role. So often the main character is depicted as a little sheep. I have a plushie that's in my closet that I carry around with Morningstar sometimes. But so basically the plot is this: the MC is transported to the Devil Dome, just like in the main story of the game, but something went wrong and they are a tiny, cute, adorable sheep. But yeah, so there's that. And like, this has been out for a while in Japanese. I've been waiting to read it for the first time until it came out in English, and it has, and now I just need to wait for the second one. But yeah, that is everything I read this year in 2023. I'm still trying to get through my to-read pile. This one was a little difficult because I had bought books that I really wanted to read, like Devout was during my book buying ban. That being said, and hopefully there will be a lot of books on next year's list. It's only the 9th as of recording this, and I have already read 2 books, and I'm on the 3rd. So, we'll just have to see though. If you have read any really good books last year in 2023, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. But until now, that's it for this video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye!